there's a simple answer to that, because even though we've come a long way since, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob and came up with AA with a bunch of others in 1935, right? As far as like secrecy and stigma, there's still that, even though it's way better. So there's a lot of people that, how could you track people that don't admit it, and don't talk about it, or keep it a secret, or suffer in silence. I think you're right about the fact that it's. I mean, I know people that have not don't have this. I know.
Yeah, but they know you. That's my point. They know.
Right.
And welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today magazine and Recovery Today podcast, where first and foremost, we're a magazine of hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself, a loved one, maybe you've been in recovery a long, long time, or maybe you've been in recovery for a day, you're going to find all kinds of topics related to addiction, recovery, and really living a happy, successful life at Recovery Today. I'm Rob Hanley. I'm the editor-in-chief, and as you can see, I have a bevy of guests today. The first is a friend of ours. He's also a rock and roll Hall of Famer from the amazing band Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and he is also a former cover of Recovery Today magazine. And along with him, we have also two of his friends, now my friends, extremely successful careers. Both of them have had in advertising, marketing, and experience in award-winning endeavors. Chief creative officers with world-class businesses, operations, brand marketing, and advertising credentials. And they too are the founders of a very cool place online called Allsober. My guests today, of course, Ricky Byrd, Paul Gayter, and Flora Nichols. Guys, thanks for jumping on today.
No problem.
Hey, sorry about that was actually quite an extensive little bio there with all of the world class and chief executive officer and creative officers and stuff like that. Ricky just told me that I needed to meet you. That was kind of pretty much sufficient for me, and we loved Ricky. I really enjoyed the conversation that we had when we met the last time. And this interview is a little bit overdue, so I guess let's just kind of start out a little bit. I'd like to know a little bit of your backgrounds, and then kind of just jump into a little bit of what Allsober is and how you entered into the sober space, I guess I would say, to kind of kick things off.
Yeah, well, I'll start with that one if it's okay. It's funny because we wrote that bio when somebody asked us to come up with a little bit about ourselves and make it short and sweet. And it occurred to us that we needed to write something about the glory days, as it were, as the work that we had done. And yes, indeed, we have achieved a lot in the world of advertising and marketing. But the point of that was not how great Paul and Flora are necessarily. It was more about how addiction can take over your old life and make you have to reassess and do things a different way. And so all that fluff, as I said, is a way of just saying this is how addiction can affect people. And it certainly affected us because we had a long journey with our son, who I have to say up front is now approaching 5 years sober. But along that way, we had a lot of struggles, and the struggles showed themselves in many ways, and not least of which was how it affected our career and our jobs, because Flora and I we owned our own advertising agency. We had lots of clients, and you try working when you're trying to save a loved one's life. Yeah, it's pretty darn impossible. So that explains the bio from my point of view, and also as a link to where we are today. I don't know if Flora wants to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, Brits are. We did write those bios, but Brits are not very good at saying they're good at things, right? So
what is that? What is it about Brits? Like the dry humor and
Okay,
Oh,
no,
We're just told not to. It's rude to say that you're good.
yeah.
that's so funny.
So
So-
we'd rather say we're okay, which in British speak means we're really, really great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did have successful careers, and you know, I'm really proud of the careers Paul and I had. You know, we worked at kind of, you know, really famous agencies, Ogilvy, Leo Burnett, Young and Rubicam, you know, places like that. The connection between working at those places and Allsober is we got fantastic training. And the training that we got at those places was to track the customer journey, right? As you say in advertising and marketing. And so to deliver a, you know, great brand campaign for a client, you have to understand what the customer does and needs at every point in their journey.
Yeah.
And when we were going through this with our son, we were experiencing his journey and the journey of millions of people. 202 million Americans are impacted by addiction daily. And we were experiencing it ourselves as parents, right? And, you know, as I say, he struggled for a long time. And eventually, after kind of, you know, a good few times in and out of rehab, he was stable. But the last time he came out of treatment and was coming back here to DC to find a sober house, we talked to him one morning, and we said, yeah, he sounded a bit low. And we said, what's the matter? And he said, you know, I'm coming back. I'm determined to stay sober, but I'm not going to have a life. You know, I'm just not going to have a life. And Paul and I realized at that point that all the thoughts that we were having as we kind of were experiencing this journey with him came together, and we realized that we had to kind of do something to help him and to help the millions of other people struggling. So what we did literally the next day, as Brits do, we put the kettle on, made a cup of tea, sat at our kitchen table, this is the God's honest truth, and plotted out the customer journey, right? So his journey plotted out the journey that millions of people struggling with addiction and their families and friends and loved ones go through every day. And we knew we had to kind of create a platform. We knew from his journey and what happened to us that it had to have a help and information section so that people coming at this cold could go somewhere and get all the information they needed, because everything is fragmented. It's all over the internet. We knew it had to have a group support section so that people could kind of find groups and go in there and ask their questions and benefit from other people's help and advice. We knew it had to have a section where you could find treatment. We didn't even know where to look. We were scrambling around all over the internet. So we knew that had to be in there. We knew that it had to have a relaunch section so that we could help people get back on their feet and get back into society and find jobs and benefit from the structure and dignity of work or going back to school. We knew it had to have a sober lifestyle section so that they could understand what the benefits of a sober life and surround themselves with people who could support them. We knew it had to have a community section. So, you know, the opposite of addiction is connection, right? So they could connect with other people and magnify that support that they got. And we also knew it had to have an inspiration section so people could see that recovery is possible and be inspired by the stories of others to see that they can do it and they can be sober. And, you know, that's what we did. We laid it all out that morning at the kitchen table. And then we spent about a year. We went and found a partner, a friend of ours who was a real big wig at ExxonMobil called Alan Kelly, who was really well connected. And we started rolling to get Allsober off the ground. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but that's what happened.
That was a great answer. That was a very, very good answer. Very British answer. I love the part with the T, by the way. The part that I didn't want to interrupt you, but you said something really significant right out of the gate. And first of all, in my mind, your son is probably like in his early 20s. Not to, you know, tell too much about him, but I'm just kind of, how old was he roughly when
he's turned the corner. He's into his early 30s.
Okay, so 30. You said 5 years sober, so he's in his 20s, starting to struggle. And now he's got about 5 years. Is that somewhere around?
We don't know for sure because his problems it certainly crept on us, and it probably crept on his. So who knows? Our best guess is late teens.
Yeah, I was going to say like the usual story, you know, late teens, early 20s. experimenting, you like it, you're rebelling, you're trying to find yourself and all this kind of stuff. And then the next thing you know, like it's just dominated your life. But the part that I was kind of curious about was and I get the hopelessness and stuff like that. And maybe that's what it was, but Flora had said that he said, I'm determined to get sober, but I'm not going to have a life. And that is a little bit of I wanted to kind of drill down on like why, because it's a little bit of a disconnect. It sounds to the normal kind of person. Like on one hand, you say, I'm going to get sober and I'm going to get my life back. I don't understand. I'm going to get sober and I'm not going to have a life. Or was it I'm just not going to be able to party and have fun, or I'm going to be some boring ass person?
All of it. All the above.
All of that. I think he came back to us, and coming back to this location was probably part of the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Because he was coming back to his previous existence, which was almost entirely governed by addiction.
Yeah.
But it was also partially governed by this lifestyle, which involved, I'm going to use it, people, places, and things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the recognition of somebody who's just newly sober, shall we say, coming straight out of treatment center, when they agree to change people, places, and things. The problem with that statement is that you have to change people, places, and things. And it was a little bit of a cry out from him. And we part of the reason that we started on the road to Allsober was we wanted to give an answer to that comment that he made.
Yeah.
And
the way that I summarize that whole thing is he didn't know that it's cool to be sober. He didn't know it was cool to be sober, because he's thinking I'm just going to be some, life is going to be mundane. It's not going to have the ups and downs. The cool people, all the cool people party, and they all, do blow and all the other kind of stuff, and tie one on and everything like that. And I'm just not. I'll have to be sober, and so I'm going to miss all of that. Life.
And the thing is that, as you know, that's not a unique statement from people that are
coming from the person, by the way, that is. Definitely, it's cool to be sober, dude. Rockstar, rock and roll Hall of Famer, like party animal in the day, and now the definition of it's cool to be sober, man.
Yeah, but a lot of people that I've heard over the years, I've been in recovery 35 years plus now, and they come in and they think that they're life is done. What am I going to do? I mean, I have a situation like I got sober. I was on the road with Joan, and I had to remove myself from hijinks and shenanigans while being on the road, But I mean, I never thought, but I had my life was bizarre anyway. So like, I didn't think that my life was over, but I could see, their son is not unique in that statement when you first come in. That was the point I was trying to make.
The other thing, interesting thing is that Andrew was in his early recovery suffering from that other thing, and I've heard actual rock stars and artists refer to this. My son is actually a musician himself. I'm not saying he's great. Well, as mom and dad, we think he's fabulous, but he's not great. But he was still suffering from that thought that somehow he was creative because of the drugs he was taking.
That's an interesting one right there, man.
And he was still wrestling with the fact that, and he's there now, and he recognizes that he's 10 times more creative, more productive. And
why is that? I guess
that's rubbish. That's rubbish. That was British, wasn't it? That's
rubbish.
Yes, very British.
And in fact, Music Cares, the Grammys, recovery wing, helping people. They had me do a couple of like music groups with a room full of singers and songwriters that were just newly sober. Some of them were famous, some of them were brand new. And they had that exact thing. I can't write a song anymore. I don't know how to do this. I have nothing to say. I don't think I ever felt that, like, but once again, I was in the middle of a hurricane, I was on the road, so, like, I had to be I was forced to be creative. But, that's some you know, your brain is just telling you all these reasons why you shouldn't stop getting high. That's all it is.
Right.
It's just excuses.
You've been,
I would say with that, I really do not want to use my son's names, but and nearly said it there. But I would say, just to back up on some of the things that we've been discussing, I think it was twofold. That realization that, if you were determined to change your life, then you couldn't hang out with the people who were in it, and the people who were in it were drinking and drugging. And if you want to stay sober, you can't hang out with them. So you've got to change that. And to Paul's point and to Ricky's point about, we're a creative family, right? And I did think, that some of what Paul had said was, maybe our son did feel that. I know I've heard interviews with David Bowie, of all people, who before he got sober thought that all his creativity, go figure, somebody like that, all his creativity was due to drugs and alcohol. Seriously, it's not innate in your DNA, and then he had to go down that road that I'm sure Ricky walked down, and realize that actually, when you're sober and you're clear-headed, you turbocharge your creativity because there's nothing getting in the way.
Well,
Ricky?
let's be clear. We always talk about the voice. The reason why we want to not do this by ourselves is because we have a disease that tells you don't have a disease. So we have a voice in our head that's telling us, it's making excuses. It's saying, my life's over. I can't write songs anymore. I can't do this. I can't do it. All it is the battle between the disease and recovery at the beginning. And the voice is telling you, because it's the same voice later on, if you stop working whatever you're doing, whatever program you're working, that's telling you, nah, maybe you weren't so bad. I wasn't so bad. I could just do one. It's just that voice. And I'm here to tell you, I have never been as prolific a writer, as good as a guitar player. My stuff just went up. It took a while to get to there.
Mm-hmm.
But once I did, it was like, wow, who knew?
Yeah. Can I just throw in a bit of an update, because I think it'll bring this all together. So Andrew came back and he was changing people, places and things, which included having to try and avoid a lot of his friends who still wanted to continue with the old life. Well, roll the clock nearly 5 years later, last Thanksgiving, we had the family all met to do a 5K fun run in the local town. And in amongst the people running was our son, who is now really passionate runner, and a good group of these friends, these buddies, who were supposedly continuing with their errant ways.
Yeah.
And they were all clean, all ran this race together, and it was quite emotional to see them all hugging at the end. It was hugging because they completed this run, and they were hugging because they were just happy in that moment, being sober, fit, and friends once again.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely wonderful. And I think the other thing that has happened is that, to Ricky's point, and I have a question for Ricky. To Ricky's point, our son realized, and I don't know at what point in that journey, that his music is better sober. And I wanted to ask you, Ricky, at what point did you, when you're clear-headed and you're kind of, okay, that's a great song that I've just written, and I would never have written that when I was high. At what point did that happen?
Well, first of all, as a songwriter, one of the things your voice tells you is some of the greatest songs in the rock and roll era, world, when I was a teenager, were written by stoned musicians.
Sometimes about being stoned, actually.
Yeah, including the Beatles and the Stones, of course. you know, and so your brain tells you, well, I mean, you know, that song, Jumpin' Jack Flash, they wrote that one, and, you know, which is, you know, that doesn't mean they couldn't have written it when they weren't stoned, but that's one of the things your voice gives you excuses about. It's like, well, look at all the great material that was written with people that were high. And I think I finally started to see the change. Oh, it was way, I mean, my guitar playing started getting better, no doubt. But when I did those 2 recovery records, you know, Clean Getaway and Sobering Times, and I wrote those songs, and then I would do my recovery music groups at treatment facilities, and I would see the looks on the people's faces sitting in front of me, where I see the words and the lyrics and the sentiment was touching them. I was like, oh wow, I think I'm getting better. You know, because that's what songs, that's what music's supposed to do. It's supposed to either make you laugh, cry, or think. You know, that's what creativity is. And I saw that, yeah. And listen, early days, you'd go up there, you'd be on stage rocking, you'd see people clapping and smiling. But this was a whole other level, you know, like the words that I was saying about recovery, no preaching and allowed, just putting the, you know, cards on the table. And you could see the looks on their faces, and I was like, huh, I think I'm getting there, you know.
Now,
Fantastic.
the elephant in the room question for me, Ricky, or either of you, Paul or Flora, is how did you come together? I mean, like how are you here, Ricky? Like how did this happen?
Well, first let me make a point that I'm wearing my Jeff Beck t-shirt.
I saw, man, fan of that, fan of Jeff.
Yeah, so
He wasn't a bad guitar player. He was kind of promising.
he was the greatest. He was the greatest in my world. And interestingly enough, he did not over party, and he passed away from some normal thing. But I was brought in. Somebody brought me in. I have always been seeking a platform where I could do what I do. So way before I met these guys, I've been doing these recovery music groups, you know, around the country, and keynote speaking and going to places and talking to kids at juvie halls and stuff. But I hated to, like, I kept trying to put things together to do it myself, and I'm just not that guy. Like, you know, I had a foundation and I was always looking for a place where I could do my stuff, but somebody else could drive, you know, and I could just be on the bus, you know, and just go, okay, I could do that. And somebody thought this would be a great platform for me to get involved with. And also, when they told me what it was about, in my experience, because I recover out loud, you know, not my means, not my methods, but the fact that I'm in recovery. I have people that contact me quite a bit that say that they have somebody that needs help. Do I have any suggestions of where they could go? And they may live in Shreveport or, you know, Sheboygan or something. And I would be, you know, I would never, I don't know, so I wouldn't give advice, but I turn them on to somebody that I know that knows. And so it came to me that, like Flora said before, there's like so much information out there, but it's all over the place. And when you're a desperate parent and you're trying to find a place near you that's maybe for a younger crowd or for an older crowd, we've had that. You know, somebody that said, my aunt is an alcoholic and she's a senior. Is there a place near so and so that caters to older people? I'm like, wow, I don't know. I didn't even know there was such a thing. So when I heard about what the platform was about, putting all the information in one spot, I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. You know, one step, you know, one stop shopping. And so they brought me in, and you know what my job is right this minute as an ambassador is I've been bringing some of my friends in the rock and roll world, and I'm going to spread out to sports and other people in the entertainment, and also people that I know that are in the field of recovery, to be on the inspiration page that we talked about before. So if you go to the inspiration page on allsober.com, you'll see some of my pals from the rock world.
Nice.
And so that's what I'm doing now, and then hooking them up with cool people like you, Rob.
Indeed.
I'm not British, so I just say thanks.
Yeah. So from our point of view, somebody like Ricky was fundamental to what we're building here. and that is the power of people's stories of success, and people's stories of success from people who are in of themselves are successful. I mean, we never underestimated the power of celebrity in this, and we're unashamed in saying that. When you have somebody who's out there in the public sphere, who's brave enough to come out and talk about the journeys that they've been on, it can only be helpful times 10. But having said that, we people's stories is the key to the inspiration part of our platform.
Ricky,
Yeah,
why do you think that, go ahead, Flora.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to that. We've got a, one of the challenges, and we're addressing it. And obviously, kind of Ricky and his pals, bless their hearts, who are out and proud, about it, are really kind of shining examples for people. Also, as Paul said, the inspirational stories that are coming just from ordinary people. I don't know if you, Rob, if you've had a chance to see our Facebook page. We've been inundated by people holding up signs celebrating their soberversaries, as we like to say, and just the comments from people just make your hair stand on end. I never thought I'd be able to do this. I was suffering in the dark, by myself, and now I'm 2 years sober or 6 months sober or whatever it is. So go check it out. Just the comments and the pictures of people, and they're going viral. And I think what is inspiring to us seeing that is, if we're ever going to end the stigma and shame of addiction, more and more people need to come out. And so people can see it's everybody. Everybody has this issue. It's 61% of the US population. We all know people. This needs to be like
I don't think that number is right. I don't think that number is right.
We've got the numbers. I'll give them to you after the show.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And the reason why, this is why, is common sense tells me, and maybe I'm parsing, and I actually am trying to, I am trying to make a point, is who does not know someone who is either in recovery or needs to be in the United States? Like, unless you're talking about a child, I think that it is so prevalent, because one person in a family, there could be, a whole aunts and uncles. I just don't think that 61% just sounds grossly. It sounds so, even when you had said 230 million or whatever, I'm thinking it's 100%.
200. Oh, you don't buy it because you think the figure is higher?
It's grossly underreported. It's 100%.
Oh, no question.
At least of adults. If you're going to take out young children and anybody has the capacity to understand, even a 12 or 13 or 14-year-old is going to say, they may not understand the full gravity, but my dad's a drunk, or he's a this, or he beat whatever. Somebody that's got the capacity to understand from that age to 80 or 90, whatever your people live to, it's got to be 100%. I just don't.
There's a simple answer to that, because even though we've come a long way since, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob and came up with AA with a bunch of others in 1935, right? As far as like secrecy and stigma, there's still that, even though it's way better. So there's a lot of people that, how could you track people that don't admit it, and don't talk about it, or keep it a secret, or suffer in silence? I think you're right about the fact that it's. I mean, I know people that have don't have this. I know.
Yeah, but they know you. That's my point. They know.
Right. Yeah.
So the thing is, and maybe it's a wide net. Somebody that's in recovery or needs to be in recovery. So if you'd say, well, I know people that they're fine. Yeah, but they know you. So it touches everybody.
And I think the thing about.
That's exactly right. You guys carry on. I'm going to find the stats as how we calculated them at 202 million that you can account for. But to Rob's point, we're counting the people that you can count. Yeah. We're not counting all the people who are suffering in silence, who don't want to tell anyone, who don't even realize they're addicted, who are still down in a bottle of wine at night and think, oh, I don't have a problem. We're not counting any of those.
You know, that brings up an opportunity for a question I was going to ask Ricky a moment ago too. Why is it that some celebrities are, I know I won't list their names because I still have hope at some point to actually have them in recovery today, but like frustrates me, man. Like I've seen them give quotes to people here and there, but so it's known, like to somebody like that, maybe not to the general public, but to somebody like me, it's known that this person and this person and this person and just won't do an interview, or others actually even more egregiously, I will actually say with my disdain, is won't speak about it unless you pay them, man. Like, what is up with that, Ricky?
Well, I don't know. I never heard about that, but everybody has the right to not talk about it if they don't want the
Sure.
public to know about it. And as I call my friends and say, look, I'm working with this great organization, Allsober, and how would you like to be a power of example on that? And I've only had one person say to me, no, I don't really want to be that guy, you know. And okay, that's cool, you know. But most of them are like, absolutely. Now, once again, let me be clear. We're not talking about the way we get sober. So if anybody's going, what about anonymity? Okay, being in recovery, that word is an umbrella. So it has
There's
nothing to
not
do with
one
anonymity.
way. I don't even buy the fact that there's one way to actually
No,
be.
but there's a way that's anonymous. So do I have to say any more of that? Like, I don't talk about that. Like, I talk about that I'm in recovery, right? And if you want to talk further with me, you could get in touch with me on social media, and I'd be happy to talk to you in private. But the point being is, you know, the celebrity thing is, we're in a celebrity world, right? That's why TMZ is such a big show, and magazines, and everybody likes to see what the people, the movie stars are doing and this and that for whatever reason. So this problem is so big in this world right now because there's a lot of people hurting, right? So this whole thing about why is there an inspiration page, and you know, why, I can only speak to my own experience. I've had people say to me, wow, man, I grew up on your music. That's so cool that you're in recovery, because, you know,
Totally.
I lost my cousin, or my brother, or my mom is an alcoholic. That's all it is. It's no big deal. We're nothing
You know what
special.
it
It's
really
just the
is?
point.
I
It's
just
just we have to come at this at every angle.
I'm going to tell you
Because
why. I'm going to tell you why it is. I think you'll like it because I just thought of this and I was like, oh, that's really good. The reason why the celebrity, okay, I never
that's humble of you.
Yeah,
I'm just going to tell you
very
why.
British, very
The
British, Rob. Carry on.
Okay, the reason why, okay, people like that, when you're saying, well, we like to watch the celebrity or whatever it is, it's because the reason it has more of an impact, perhaps, is because Flora had said it early on, is that they're connected to you. When they've listened to your music and they're driving in the car, whatever it is, you don't have any idea who they are, but they know who you are. They are connected to you. And so since this is the opposite of addiction is connection, that's why it inspires them more, because they're connected to you, man.
That's a good point. And once again,
I thought so. I was
Yeah.
like, man, I thought that, I was like, that's pretty good, man. They know
but
you.
once again, it's another, like my recovery music groups.
Yeah.
I still have people that I played to 7 years ago at a treatment facility that write me and say, man, I listen to your record all the time when I'm feeling a little scratchy, itchy, you know, and it really helped. The lyrics really help me.
Yeah.
It's just another angle. We need every tool we can find to fight this, because people are dying like crazy. Now the media is not helping. Okay. And I'll give you a quick example. When Demi Lovato, you know, I think, did she have a stroke or something? She was in a coma. Fentanyl, I think, something like
Yeah.
that. You would know better than me. It was all over the media. Like, she was doing these interviews all over there, and she was like talking about, even on a talk show, and she was saying you know, this didn't work for me, so I'm California sober.
Yeah.
I have no comment on that. I don't even know what it is, but the point being is, you know, she didn't want to do this, but she still wanted to do that.
Yeah. Drug
Okay.
choice.
Yeah. So she came out after that, and it was everywhere. And she came out after that and said, I am no longer California sober. But it was this big, the headline, right?
I'm no longer California sober, meaning she's completely sober now.
Well, I didn't see the whole. I'm assuming that, but you know, when you assume, you're wrong sometimes. I don't know the answer to that question. The only thing I'm pointing out is when she said that, compared to when she said she was California sober, which was all over the news and on talk shows, it was such a tiny little headline. So
Yeah.
I think the media can help with
No
this,
question.
you know, because people, let's be clear, there's a sadistic nature in humans also. People watch some of those shows and read that because they'd like to see people that are up there fall.
Oh, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. Well, do you know what, Ricky? They also say, you know, I mean, we have loads of friends who are journalists, and you know, want to thank all of them for kind of pitching in to help us get the word out about Allsober. But you know, just being with them over the years and hearing them talk about kind of news stories, and they always say, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. So that right there explains why, you know, Demi Lovato, I don't know, you know, I don't know about this, so I'm, you know, talking out of school here, but, you know, if what happened was what you say happened, where, you know, when she first came out, it was, you know, she, whatever it was that had caused her to kind of have to be open about, you know, her sobriety, was all over the news. And then when she kind of drills down and, you know, and becomes sober, maybe it's a tiny little,
Well, look
you
at
know,
Charlie Sheen too, from back around like 2009 or 10. That was big headlines, you know. And however I don't know Charlie Sheen's deal. I would actually think that he's sober. I don't know how he got there, but we certainly don't see that, you know, the train wrecks and things like that happening. Of course, he's not in the public eye, but let's be clear. Obviously, if he got in a car accident or something like that, it would be on TMZ. You know, he may not be directly in the public eye, but he's, you know, once famous like that, always famous.
yeah,
And
Robert Downey.
And you know, my saying has always been, whatever keeps you on the right side of the grass, you know. So my point is not that Demi tried California sober, because whatever, it's progress, not perfection, right? So whatever leads you to the, you know, being alive is fabulous. My point is that the headline was way big when she just was giggling about it and saying, you know, she wanted to do this or whatever it was. You know, I still like to have a glass of wine at dinner. I'm, you know, I don't remember what she said. And then the other part where I saw the headline saying, I'm no longer California sober. Now, I don't know what that means. You're right. But I'm hoping it means that she's doing well, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think one of our goals on the platform, and I think, you know, on the platform also, but is to show not only celebrity stories, but the stories of ordinary people. Because, you know, I'm really proud to say that, you know, the Soberversaries section of the platform and our Facebook section are showing ordinary people who are becoming sober daily from all walks of life. This affects everybody. We've got everybody out there. So I think the combination of the inspiration that you see on the inspiration page, where we've got Ricky and all our celebs, you know, talking about being sober and talking openly about their struggles and what it took to get there. You know, Ricky, that's just like going to an AA meeting, right? When you have these sessions where people come and tell their stories, it was this bad, and this finally got me to realize that if I didn't change, you know, I wasn't going to have it tomorrow. Then, you know, I think collectively the stories, there's a power to example to it. And, you know, young men and, you know, young women, like our son, for instance, you know, can see other people, can see it's possible, can see it's sustainable. And I think that's really powerful. And
Well, the lovely thing about the first community support group meeting I went to, quote unquote, was, you know, the celebrity thing is bullshit. It's all nonsense. The point being is when you walk into a community support group meeting, whatever your choice is, and you see people from all walks of life, and you may say, "Oh, I don't belong here. I'm different. You know, I'm this person, or I don't do that. Oh, I'm a CEO. What am I doing with these bunch of, you know, rummies or whatever?" And then everybody starts talking, and you go, "Holy crap, we're exactly the same."
yeah, exactly.
And that was the attraction. You know, that's the attraction. Addiction, alcoholism levels the playing field.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of us all getting together. It doesn't matter. I play guitar. This one does this. You know, this one's a famous chef. Who cares? This one is a homemaker. This one is an accountant. Once you say you can't do the first one, you know, one is too many, 1,000 is never enough. We're all the same.
Yeah, totally.
These are great lines, Ricky. Are these Ricky?
Somebody got to write them down. So no,
You're bound to pick something up if you've been around for 35 years. You know?
Sure,
None of them are original. I can tell you that.
Well, one thing I know for sure is that you know, we're all in sync. We're all in one accord. We share the same vision and purpose, and you know, like Ricky said about ride down the bus. Oh, I can do that. And so I love what you're doing. I think that it's very cool. It's, you know, very, you know, like I said, it's in sync completely with what we're doing, just a little bit different medium. But ultimately what it really is about is just, you know, helping out, you know, a single person at a time, somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's best friend. And we know that it, you know, typically without some kind of intervention or help or moment of clarity, the story doesn't end well. And you know, so we want to avoid that at all costs. And 100,000 in the United States per year, you know, it's like freaking 2 Vietnam Wars every year, man. So it's just too much. So I love it. How can people get back and find out more and all the kind of stuff like that? Let's do that part. Whoever wants to jump out.
So if people want to learn more, if people want to access the platform, go to allsober.com, ALLSOBER.com, just in case my accent gets in the way. You'll find all the things that I described as we talked, and they're all free. So get on there, get the resources, get help, join our community, just come and be part of it.
Love it, love it, love it. We'll have everything in the links and all the stuff like that. Thank you. Thanks for taking a moment today to, you know, share with everybody a little bit of your story and what you're doing in the platform. And I appreciate it. So Ricky Byrd, Paul Gayter, Flora Nichols, thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been another exclusive interview, Recovery Today magazine. Get back to allsober.com.